Hey, what's going on? My name is Avi. Thank you so much for joining me today. Got another beautiful beach sunset walk out here for you. Got a fun topic for you today, too. Been thinking about goal hijacking. So, what the hell is goal hijacking? Well, goal hijacking pretty much is like this. Let's say that you've got a goal. Maybe you want to make $100,000 this year. Maybe you want to get six-pack jacked. Maybe you want to become a virtuosic guitar player. Whatever it is that your goal is, goal hijacking would be you start out on this path, you've got this goal, you're pursuing this goal with dedication and tenacity and everything's going well. But then, unbeknownst to you, due to external pressures that may gradually mount, maybe not so gradually, but either way, due to external pressures, over time, your goal starts to take on a different shape, a different form, a different direction until at some point, upon reflection, it becomes clear that you're no longer pursuing the original goal. The goal has been hijacked and superseded with another goal that is probably related, but is also very much distinct from the original goal. So let's take a classic example of this. A lot of people, when they first get into physical training, the main goal is they want to look better, right? Most people are like, hey, I'm out of shape, and I just want to look better, right? There's three goods I say in fitness: look good, feel good, perform good. I think looking good is usually the most common thing. We human beings are vain. Nothing wrong with that. We have egos. Everyone wants to be sexy at the beach party. Everyone wants to be looking good in a bikini when they go to Cabo, right? Nothing wrong with that. It just is what it is. Let's be honest. So looking good, definitely a main and common goal. Feeling good, I would say, is probably the second most common goal when people try to take up fitness, right? They want to feel good. They want to feel better in their body. They want to have more energy, less lethargy. That's entirely valid as well. Performing good, that's more about sports, athletic performance, hence the word perform good. I feel like that one is less common. So anyway, going back to the original thing, let's say that we've got a typical Joe Schmo and they're just like, hey, New Year's resolution, let's make it New Year's resolution just to make it fun, right? Because I fucking hate New Year's resolutions, but I think they're hilarious. Maybe that's a topic for another video, but let's say Joe Schmo's got this New Year's resolution to lose 40 pounds, look better at a swim party, right? So they start out on this goal. They clean up their diet. They start going to the gym a few days a week. Maybe they buy one of those walking treadmills at their desk so they can sneak in a few extra steps throughout the day. They work at home, right? And they start to see some progress. But let's just say that they're also they start to indulge in media around fitness. And some of the people in fitness are interested in, let's just say, powerlifting or strength training of some sort, where the main goal is trying to increase the amount of numbers, right? They increase the weight on the bar, right? You're trying to get bigger numbers over time. And that doesn't have to be powerlifting. I'm not trying to pick on powerlifting. I don't hate on powerlifting. In fact, I think powerlifting is pretty fucking cool. I have relatives who have competed in it. But it doesn't have to be powerlifting. It could be anything where that's a focus, where you're trying to increase strength. And let's remember, Joe Schmo's original goal had nothing to do with strength, right? The original goal was to look better for swim parties, right? Not literally just for swim parties, but you know what I mean. Original goal is they want to look better. But let's say they're indulging in this media, or maybe not indulge is the right word, but they're ingesting or absorbing this media that has to do with strength training or just getting stronger in general, and associating some element of ego with getting stronger. Or maybe there's like a masculine element, like when you get stronger, you're more of a man, right? And there's a social competition component, right? When you go to a typical gym, there might be like pressure to put more on the bar to compete with other people there, or to avoid embarrassment of looking weak, right? So we're seeing there's all sorts of pressures, right? And that's, again, the goal hijacking thing is your goal doesn't just change for no reason, right? You started out with a goal because you gave a fuck about that, right? Joe Schmo wanted to look better. Joe Schmo gives a fuck about that. So how does the goal change? Well, the goal changes because there's some force or external forces that act on the person who has the goal such that over time they change the goal without really even knowing it, because they're not even aware of these pressures acting on them in the first place. This is kind of like, I'm going to get nerdy here for a second. This is kind of like Newton's first law of motion in a way, which basically just says an object in motion will just stay in motion unless acted on by an unbalanced force. And in this case, the object in motion is Joe Schmo with his goal of looking good. He'll just keep trying to look good and working towards that unless acted on by this external force. And that's like, again, just reviewing, right? You could have media, fitness media that's focused on a lot of other things besides looking good. There's totally a ton of media that is focused on looking good, but it sure doesn't have to be focused on that. Could be focused on strength, the virtues associated with being strong, right? That could be, you know, being masculine. It could be, functionality, right? Like you can put your suitcase in the overhead bin, right? Like there's so many reasons that people could want to get stronger. Maybe it will make them feel better in their everyday life. Maybe it will help them perform better in competition, right? Whatever. But there could be so many things, so many instances of media that Joe Schmo could take in, especially with modern day algorithms and social media. It's not even necessarily exposing you to what you want to see. It's exposing you to a lot of like neighboring or adjacent content, things that are related, but not necessarily exactly matching the media that you're looking for, the media you signed up for, right? That's just how these algorithms work. So we're even more prone to goal hijacking than we ever have been, because that's what these media platforms are trying to get us to do, right? That's what makes more money. The more you can expose people to a whole variety of media, the more likely you can hook them into any one of those, start getting them to see advertisements related to the content, and then that makes everyone, well, not everyone, but it makes those media companies and the associated content creators more money, right? So you get introduced to all these different forms of media which are espousing different values. They're related values, right? Strength training and looking better at the beach because you want to lose some weight. Like, it's still all fitness, and like, you know what I mean? It's like all in that camp, but they're also very distinct. Like, you looking better at the beach in Cabo, yeah, you'll probably look better if your squat goes up, but it's not a direct one-to-one comparison. And also, as likely as it is that you will look up better if your squat goes up, there's also the possibility that you might not really look that much better, or you might not look better in the way that you want, right? So that's a case of goal hijacking, where let's say that Joe Schmo, the first 3 months, he's on his shit. He's cleaning up his diet in the kitchen. He's eating better. He's going to the gym, and he's on a conscious awareness level. He's focused on this goal of losing weight. By the way, this could be a she. I don't mean to be genderizing here, but it's like Joe Schmo or whoever could be 3 months in and like really making progress and all that stuff, but then without even knowing it, just by exposure to these different videos, different media that are espousing different values, still fitness related, but also like it's just different values. And here's the thing, like, this is assuming we haven't even talked about the fact that some content creators can be misleading, not even necessarily maliciously, but and it could be maliciously, but most of the time it's not malicious. But for example, there will be people that are like selling like some product, like maybe a dumbbell rack, or like shake weight was the fucking hilarious one back in the day, right? Where you have these people advertising it that look jacked as fuck, but it's like, you think they got jacked as fuck using shake weight? Of course, a rational person who's been in fitness for over a decade would be like, no, that's a fucking joke. But not everyone fucking knows that, right? There are innocent, let's just be honest, innocent, naive consumers who don't know any better, and they get taken advantage of by the system in this case, right? They're like, oh yeah, like, here's this jacked guy and he happens to be using shake weight. The brain's like, oh yeah, like, it seems possible he could have gotten jacked with that, but it's like, no, like, so then that's a really bad example of goal hijacking, right? So now your goal is like, oh, I want to get stronger at shake weight so I can look like that guy. That's a really egregious example, but that does happen all the time. Going back to our strength training thing, where Joe Schmo wants to look good, but maybe he gets introduced to more strength training focused media, or building up numbers on the bar for sake of ego or social competition or to feel like a man or whatever, there might be the problem as well of not only projecting or advertising strength training as a way to accomplish all of those values, but then again, not necessarily maliciously, but it could be, there also can be this other element of like broadcasting strength training as a mechanism, as a primary mechanism even, for accomplishing the original goal of losing weight and looking better, or just looking better in general in Cabo. And that is what would be called a surrogate endpoint. A surrogate endpoint is something that seems to be directly correlating to the original goal, but is actually not a one-to-one correlation, and in fact is a red herring and is misleading. Another classic example is the scale versus like a DEXA scan, right? A lot of people who weigh on the scale every day are actually interested in body composition. In fact, I would say most of them are, right? They want to reduce fat, gain muscle, but the scale doesn't necessarily tell you anything about that. I can tell you from my personal experience that I have had DEXA scans where I was literally at the exact same weight. Like the DEXA scan I had as an 18-year-old, I was literally at 193 pounds. And I just had a DEXA scan 3 months ago, now as a 28-year-old, where I was 194 pounds. So virtually the same weight. But in that time, I had gained like 12 pounds of muscle and lost like a significant amount of fat, right? So the surrogate endpoint is weight, the scale. Like it seems like it indicates, oh yeah, we're moving in the direction of better body composition, but also not necessarily. And in the other example with Joe Schmo, strength training could be the surrogate endpoint for the actual goal, which is looking better, right? So that's where goal hijacking, you can think of the surrogate endpoint as like it's like the foundation by which the mechanism of goal hijacking occurs, right? Without the surrogate endpoint, goal hijacking kind of can't happen, or at least it can't happen as effectively, because the classic case of, well, let's take a step back, right? If Joe Schmo gets more interested in strength training because of like other values that don't necessarily have to do with the original thing of looking better, like let's say, for example, he just really, finds a club at the gym of people that he really fucks with. He's got this social circle and they're really interested in strength training. And it's a part of their like value system that they just respect the person who can lift the most weight. And there's this collective pressure to always be putting more on the bar. That would be an example of goal hijacking without the use of a surrogate endpoint, because it's not like those people are actively telling Joe Schmo, hey, by strength training, you're going to look better. That would be the surrogate endpoint. But rather, they're not doing that. They're just simply, by virtue of their social status, their social system, the values in that social system is, hey, let's all lift more weight because that's what we value. Like, that's what we think is worthy of respect. And I'm kind of chuckling as I say this, but I mean, it's valid, right? Like, it's an ego competition. If you're lifting the most in your circle, you probably can puff out your chest a little bit and feel good about yourself. But that's not saying, hey, you're going to look better as a result. It might be implied, but it's not an explicit surrogate endpoint. It's rather just the endpoint literally shifts. The goal just completely shifts, which is goal hijacking. But then goal hijacking with the surrogate endpoint would be if there was some form of media where someone was sharing or purporting that, oh yeah, like, let's not only shift the focus of strength training, but in so doing, shifting over to a focus of strength training, you're also going to look better. That would be, and again, it's not necessarily malicious. It could be, but often that is not the case. But that would be a surrogate endpoint, because now Joe Schmo is pursuing this surrogate endpoint of getting stronger, but the actual endpoint, the actual goal is still to look better. So why does all this matter? This matters because these forces can take advantage of us and mislead us and misdirect us when we're not even aware of it, especially because these forces are gradual. Often they're gradual, and the changes in our goal and our outlook, those changes are so small from day to day that we don't really notice it. It's kind of like if you're in a weight loss journey, you don't really see the changes in your body from day to day. But then if you take before and after pictures, like at day 0 and day 90, you look at your pictures 90 days later and you're like, whoa, like that's a massive change, right? All those micro changes from day to day, when magnified over 90 days, they become fucking huge. And it's exactly the same thing with goal hijacking, right? These external pressures that are misleading you. Oh, we've got a dog barking at me. Haha. These external pressures that are misleading you day by day, but in a very micro kind of way, in small ways that you don't even notice, that's when it's really diabolical. So you got to just, I think the takeaway from this is regularly check in with yourself. Why are you doing what you're doing? Right? We're talking about fitness, but this doesn't have to be about fitness. This is anything in your life. Like, ask yourself, what are the main goals you're pursuing? Why are you pursuing them? Are they aligned with your true values? If not, why not? Have you been misled? Has your goal been hijacked by external pressures, by other people, by the social circles you're in, by the social systems and hierarchies you're in? Check in with that regularly. I'd say this should be kind of like a bi-weekly check-in every 2 weeks. Just like do a little journal entry and take inventory. Hey, what are my goals right now? Again, it doesn't have to be fitness, but it's like, what is the goal? What are the goals? But do it one at a time. What is the goal? Why do I give a fuck about this goal? Was this my original goal? If yes, great. Am I still aligned with those values? If yes, great, good. End of journal on that one. If no, though, like if that's not your original goal, that's fine. People change, but be aware of, why did you change? Did you change because you had a change in internal values? If so, why? Right? And if you agree with that change in values, that's totally cool. But you may also very well not agree with that change in values. You might take inventory and reflect and be like, wait a minute, like somewhere along the way, my values changed and I wasn't even aware of it. And I actually don't agree with this change in values. And if that's the case, well, go back to the original goal that represented your true values. So, there's definitely a case to be made here for the simple, I think a lot of people have probably heard from Arnold's book, that whole thing of like, know why you're going to the gym. And I think this is on a broader level, not just with the gym. I think that question, know why you're doing anything. Is it because you genuinely want to do it? Or is it because you have been pressured externally and you don't even know that you're being pressured, right? Like, how free are you? This is a bigger question of like, how free are you? How in tune with your own freedom are you? How much are you honoring your freedom? And how much of your freedom has been sold to others, subjugated, and yeah, commandeered by others? I don't know. I was thinking of another way to say that. Sold makes it imply that it's always about capitalism and money, but it doesn't even necessarily need to be money motivated, right? Like in that case with Joe Schmo and the gym and being around people who are really interested in strength training for egoic purposes, that's not like your freedom is being sold, but nonetheless, your freedom is being taken from you. And that doesn't have to be malicious, right? We can give our freedom away without even knowing it. We can shed ourselves of our freedom. And that's, don't do that. Don't discard your freedom without even knowing it. Know where you're free, know where you're not, know why you're doing what you're doing. And I think that's kind of the big takeaway from all of this is just awareness, regular check-ins. What are you doing with your life? Who is influencing you, both in your literal physical environment? Who are you around? But also, what media are you taking in? And how is that media shifting you? And be very aware of the surrogate endpoint phenomenon, right? Where someone can be projecting you this very common in advertisements, or someone can be telling you, hey, this thing helped create this goal, but that thing actually had nothing to do with that fucking goal. And meanwhile, is that goal actually related to your original goal, right? I come back to the shake weight. The shake weight's just hilarious, right? The shake weight helping you get that body. First off, will the shake weight help you get that body? Probably not. And secondly, is that body even what you're going for? Was that different from your original goal? It's worth asking the question. This also is relatable to the problem of steroids in the fitness industry, right? Because so often we are attracted to these physiques that were built largely by steroids. Of course, those people are putting in work, not trying to take away from that, but nonetheless, like, steroids are absolutely supporting the development of those crazy otherworldly physiques. And we start to take that on as a goal for ourselves, when in reality, that's completely fucking impossible, right? So that's a form of goal hijacking. But interestingly enough, that's actually not a surrogate endpoint one, right? Because assuming your original goal was to look good, it's, well, you could argue it's a surrogate endpoint if you believe that those steroided out physiques don't look good. Because in that case, your original goal was to look good, and then the goal got hijacked to become this other fucking thing of like, oh, by getting that physique, I'll look good, when in reality, it's like, maybe that doesn't look very good. But yeah, just wanted to point out steroids, though. I think that's a very potent example. Let's do a non-fitness example of goal hijacking. I think that money is a classic one, right? Because a lot of people, I think, start out with a goal of like, hey, like, I want to make enough money to be comfortable, to live a life that is not short of resources, right? You have abundance, but it's not necessarily luxurious or flamboyant or pretentious or showing off or using money as a status symbol, right? Most people, I think, just want money so that they don't fucking starve, so they can put a roof over their head, and generally have some good times in life, right? So to support survival and basic necessities of life, but then also, yeah, have some good times. That said, though, right, you get exposure through media, movies, social media, YouTube, whatever the fuck it is, and just our social circles that, oh, by buying these things, getting this Rolex, whatever it is, you get more social status, and people start to value that over time. They start to value money not just for the necessities of life and having some good times, but they value money because of the purported status it can get them if they buy these things. And that's a form of goal hijacking, right? Because that was not the original intention for getting money for a lot of these people. The original intention was just to have a decent life. But then by getting exposed to these external forces, again, the Newton's law of motion, right? The unbalanced forces that are acting on us and pressuring us over time, the more that you're exposed to that, if you're not a strong, like, if you don't have wisdom and you're not able to look inward and see that those forces are acting on you, you might wake up one day and be like, huh, like, all this time I thought I was pursuing money because I actually just wanted a good life, but here I am 5 years later, and most of my motivation with getting money is just so that I can kind of one up my neighbor John down the street and have the nicer house or the nicer car or the corner office or whatever it is that you're trying to get, so that you can outcompete him and best him in the social, whatever your local social stratum or hierarchy is, right? Like, those values of like, hey, like, I have the better thing, and it's like, did you even want that? You didn't originally. Why do you want it now? Is it because you genuinely want to be better than this other person by getting these other things? Is that even possible? Does getting stuff make you a better person? But furthermore, it's like, is that because you changed in that direction solely on your own volition? Like, you wanted to become that person? And if so, like, I mean, fair enough, but that's kind of weird. But I would argue that's not what fucking happened. What happened was you weren't aware of the forces that were acting on you externally, both in the people around you and the media you consume, such that they, without you even being aware of it, changed your values gradually over time until you one day woke up and looked in the mirror and didn't even fucking recognize yourself. Or you didn't even know to not recognize yourself. You did recognize yourself because the change was so gradual. But you didn't even know to not recognize yourself, that you're no longer the person that just has this humble desire for more money to have a decent life, but rather you're just seeking money to, I mean, I'm honestly having a hard time coming up with the words because this is not relatable for me, but I've seen a lot of people fall prey to it, right? I think it's just wanting money for the social status, to feel important, to feel validated, to possibly make up for insecurities of feeling inadequate or incompetent or like you don't have much to offer. And then by getting all this money, it makes people feel like oh, I do have these things. I do have these things to offer. I do have these things that make me valid and worthy of love. And, you know, I am competitive or whatever. Like, I am better than other people, or, yeah, I don't even know. I think it just makes people feel, like they're desirable, you know, and that's just unfortunate. I really don't have anything else to say on that one. That's just unfortunate if you feel like you need more and more green paper, like this imagined construct. Money means nothing unless we think it means something, right? If one day everyone decided money didn't mean shit, it wouldn't mean shit. It only means shit because we agree that it means shit. And that's really fucking sad that so many people, just for this stupid green paper, are dedicating so much of their bandwidth and their desires and their hopes and dreams, you know, for fucking what? So you can have some more green paper and feel like you're better than the next person because you have some green paper and that you're worthy of love because you have it. That right there, that's the danger of goal hijack. Be aware of this. This is a diabolical, insidious, slow-acting force. It is not something to be fucked with. Not something to be fucked with. So I think that's it for today. We've gone over what goal hijacking is. We've gone over the process for combating it, right? For counterbalancing its effects on you. Regular check-ins with yourself and your values. Make sure that wherever the ship of your life is going, that it's going there because that's where you actually want the sails to be pointed. That's actually where you want to be going, and that it hasn't changed without you as the captain being aware of it due to these often diabolical and perhaps malicious, insidious, gradually acting forces on your subconscious mind that could be changing your desires and your goals without you even knowing it. Fuck that. Take charge of life. Take charge of your life. Make sure that what you're doing, you actually want to be doing it, and that you are the captain of your ship. Simple as that. And with that said, I'm going to enjoy this sunset. If you like this video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. We got more coming in the future. And I wish you just the most beautiful of days. If you got some water or some nature near you, I say go and enjoy. See you later.